Most riders think the best motorcycle to own is the fastest one, the newest one, or the one that makes their heart race in the parking lot. It isn't. Thousands of riders buy the bike they've dreamed about and quietly regret it 18 months later, once the real costs show up. Nobody warns you about that part. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which Suzukis reward you for owning them. We pulled the complete 2026 pricing across Suzuki's lineup and cross-checked recall history model by model, then looked at how each machine actually behaves once it's out of the dealership. Here's what we found. The bike with the biggest number on the dyno chart is almost never the smartest bike in someone's garage. The owner thinks they bought performance. What they actually bought was a second mortgage in tires, insurance, and specialized parts. Here's exactly how the 10 stack up and what each one means for your next purchase. Boulevard M109R. MSRP $15,799. We start with the bike everyone in the comments is going to want to defend, and honestly, we get it. The M109R is huge torque wrapped in muscle cruiser character. It has presence. It has attitude. Nobody buys an M109R quietly. Owners buy this bike because it makes them feel something. A commuter bike never will, and that's a completely legitimate reason to own a motorcycle. But this is an ownership ranking, not a fun ranking. And on ownership math, the M109R lands in last place. It's heavy, it's niche, and it costs more to run than almost anything else in Suzuki's current range. That doesn't make it a bad motorcycle. Cool and charismatic is exactly the right description for it. What it does mean is that it's the weakest rational buy on this list because it's less practical and more expensive to live with than nearly every other Suzuki sitting on the same showroom floor. If you're buying it for the feeling, you already know what you're signing up for. Just don't mistake that feeling for value. If a big cruiser can lose points purely for being expensive to live with, what happens when we get to a bike that's actually considered one of the greatest sport bikes ever built? GSX-R 600. MSRP $12,199. The GSX-R 600 is a proven iconic supersport platform, and on a track it's brilliant, genuinely one of the best tools ever built for that job. As a street ownership decision though, it's one of the worst entries on this entire list. Here's the uncomfortable truth most enthusiast content won't say out loud. Reliability and ownership cost are not the same thing. The GSX-R 600 is a great motorcycle, and it's also a poor ownership decision for most street riders. Not because anything breaks, but because everything around it is expensive. Sport compound tires that wear down fast. Insurance brackets that punish super sport specifically. A riding position that turns a commute into a chiropractor appointment. This is a fantastic street and track machine that most street-only owners are quietly using for the wrong job and paying full sport bike money to do it. And if you think the GSX-R 600 was expensive to own properly, wait until we get to Suzuki's most legendary nameplate, because this next one will surprise you. Hayabusa, MSRP $19,499. Let's be very clear about something before anyone panics in the comments. The Hayabusa ranking 8th has nothing to do with reliability. Owners value this bike for its smoothness, its long-distance stability, and a power delivery that has stayed refined and composed for decades. By almost every measure that matters to a rider, it's an excellent, durable motorcycle. This is not a watch out, it'll break entry. It ranks here because owning one correctly is expensive. This is a premium machine with premium running costs attached to every part of ownership, tires, insurance, maintenance intervals, and it's simply far more bike than the vast majority of buyers actually need for the riding they realistically do. If you're the rider who's genuinely covering serious highway miles and wants that stability, the Hayabusa earns its price. If you're buying it to have the fastest bike in the group chat, you're about to learn what more bike than you need costs every single month. One more thing worth knowing if you're shopping used. 2022 through 2024, Hayabusas were subject to a front brake master cylinder recall. If you're looking at a used one, that recall completion is the very first thing to verify, before you even talk price. So if even Suzuki's flagship Legend can lose ground on ownership logic, what does it actually take for a brand new, completely unproven model to climb higher than it? DRZ4S. The DRZ4S represents real modern dual sport potential. On paper, exactly the kind of bike serious adventure and dual sport riders have been asking Suzuki to build for years. Everything about the concept points in the right direction. But potential is not proof, and this list is built on ownership proof. This is a newer platform, and right now, there simply is not enough long-term ownership history to know how it ages, what parts wear first, or what it actually costs to keep alive past year 3. Nobody can honestly tell you yet what a DRZ4S looks like at 40,000 miles because owners have not been putting 40,000 miles on it long enough to know. That uncertainty, not any known flaw, is the entire reason it sits here instead of higher. Promising is not the same as proven, and on an ownership list, proven wins every time. If you are the type of rider who likes being first, this is a genuinely exciting bike to bet on. If you want someone else to take that risk first, give it a few more years to build a track record. It could easily climb this ranking in a future update. GSX-R, MSRP $9,699. The GSX-R is, in plain terms, a smarter street sport bike than the GSX-600 for the vast majority of riders. More usable ergonomics, more livable for daily riding, less punishing over a normal week. This is what a usable sport bike package actually looks like, and it's a meaningful upgrade in ownership terms over its bigger, more famous sibling. One flag for anyone shopping one, especially used. The 2024 GSX-R was subject to a drive chain recall. That's not a reason to write the bike off. Plenty of great used bikes carry a recall in their history. It's simply a reason to confirm that recall work was completed before any money changes hands. A recall isn't the same thing as an unreliable motorcycle, and it would be a mistake to treat it that way. Beyond that, this is still a newer platform without the decades of accumulated ownership proof that some of the machines further up this list have already earned. What it does have is the right formula, real-world usability wrapped in sport bike styling without the compromises that put the GSX-R600 lower on this list. It's a smart buy today, and it has every ingredient to become a genuinely proven one over time. If this ranking is already surprising you, a legendary GSX-R sitting below a newer, less flashy street sport bike, that's exactly the kind of ownership reality most channels won't tell you. Because buy the boring bike doesn't get clicks. We think it gets you a better decade with your motorcycle. Subscribe if you want more of these honest ownership breakdowns before your next purchase, and drop a comment telling us which Suzuki on this list you think is about to move up. GSX-8S. Manufacturer's suggested retail price, $9,249. The GSX-8S is a practical middleweight naked, and it edges out its fared sibling for one simple reason. Daily usability beats track-focused ergonomics almost every time when you're talking about real everyday ownership. Upright bars, a more forgiving seating position, and the same modern platform underneath. It's modern, it's genuinely fun to ride, and it works as a daily rider in a way a committed sport bike simply can't. It sits below the SV650 for one reason, and it isn't performance, it's time. The SV650 has years upon years of proven ownership data behind it. Known failure points, known costs, known parts availability, a used market that's been stress tested by thousands of owners. The GSX-8S is still building that same track record. Everything about this bike points toward it becoming a modern middleweight classic, the kind of bike people recommend to friends for a decade. It just hasn't put in the years yet to earn that title the way its older sibling already has. Now we're entering the part of this list where new and exciting stops mattering and proven and boring starts winning outright. V-Strom 800, MSRP $10,249. The V-Strom 800 is Suzuki's best modern all-rounder, full stop. Commuting, touring, backroads, everyday comfort, It does all of it competently at once, and that combination is exactly what ownership is actually about for most riders, even if it is not the flashiest thing to talk about at a bike meet. If you are shopping the DE or DE Adventure variants used, take note, the 2023 to 2024 model years were subject to a rear tire recall, and it is worth being precise here because this applies specifically to the DE and DE Adventure trims, not the standard V-Strom 800. Do not let a recall on one variant scare you off a completely unaffected version of the bike. The only real reason this motorcycle is not sitting in the top 3 is age. It simply has not had the years on the road yet that the next 3 machines have, bikes that have already proven, generation after generation, that they do not punish the people who own them. DR650S, MSRP $7,299. Here's where this list stops rewarding excitement and starts rewarding survival. The DR650S is old. By modern standards, it's genuinely crude, carbureted simplicity in a market full of ride-by-wire electronics and rider modes. And that is precisely exactly why some owners still trust it more than almost anything else Suzuki builds. This is a bike built on simplicity, and simplicity is an ownership strategy, not a compromise. Fewer systems means fewer things that can fail. Easier repairs means less time and money spent fixing it and more time spent riding it. Decades on the market means parts and shared owner knowledge are everywhere, from forums to independent shops to the guy 3 garages down who's owned 4 of them. Owners modify these things endlessly with bigger tanks, different gearing, and aftermarket suspension because the platform is simple enough to actually work on in your own garage without special tools or a dealer appointment. It's not going to impress anyone at a bike night, and it was never trying to. What it will do is start every single time for a fraction of what almost anything else on this list costs to keep on the road. Old and outdated isn't automatically a weakness on an ownership list. Sometimes it's the entire selling point. If a motorcycle this basic can outrank machines costing twice as much, what does it actually take to beat it? SV650 ABS. Manufacturer's suggested retail price, $8,149. The SV650 ABS is one of Suzuki's single safest ownership bets, period, full stop. Proven mechanics that have been refined and stress tested for years across thousands of owners. Fair pricing that doesn't punish you at the moment of purchase or hurt you again at resale. And genuine everyday usefulness. This is a bike people use for commuting, for back roads, and for building real riding skill. All on the exact same motorcycle, without ever feeling like they've outgrown it too fast. Riders use this bike to build real skill precisely because it doesn't punish small mistakes the way a supersport does. It's forgiving enough to learn on and capable enough that most owners never feel a reason to trade up. It loses the top spot for exactly one reason, and it's a comfort complaint, not an ownership complaint. Next to some of the newer platforms on this list, it feels like an older generation package. That's a real thing to consider if you care about modern electronics and a fresh dashboard. But ownership is what this list is actually measuring, and on that measure, the SV650 is about as close to a sure thing as Suzuki currently builds. If you want the most proven, most forgiving, least financially risky Suzuki available today, this is it. V-Strom 650, MSRP $9,299. And here it is, the least exciting motorcycle on this entire list and the smartest one to actually own. The V-Strom 650 doesn't win because it's thrilling. Nobody has ever bought one because it made their pulse spike in the parking lot. It wins because it's predictable. And predictable is the single most valuable trait a motorcycle can have once the newness wears off. Long-term owners run this bike for commuting, for real touring, for high mileage daily use, year after year after year, because it simply keeps working, and because when something eventually does need attention, the parts, the knowledge, and the support are everywhere, not locked behind a specialty dealer or a waiting list. It's not the bike anyone brags about at a stoplight. It's the bike that's still running, still cheap to feed, and still doing its job long after some of the bikes people did brag about are sitting in a garage waiting on an expensive part or a bigger repair bill than anyone budgeted for. That's the entire lesson of this list, distilled into one motorcycle. The V-Strom 650 is proven. It's practical. It's affordable to keep on the road year after year. And it is, by a wide margin, the best long-term ownership pick in Suzuki's entire current lineup. Not the most exciting bike Suzuki sells, but the one that will let you down the least. So here's the truth. This whole list keeps circling back to the motorcycle you want to be seen on and the motorcycle you actually enjoy owning are very often two completely different machines. Most riders still shop with the first one in mind: horsepower, looks, bragging rights, and figure out the second one the hard way, right around the 18-month mark, exactly when the excitement fades and the real bills start arriving. Apply this lesson before you buy instead of after, and you skip the expensive education this entire list just gave you for free. The fastest way to fall out of love with a motorcycle was never a bad ride. It's an expensive one, month after month, long after the honeymoon ends. If this ranking changed how you're looking at your next Suzuki, subscribe. The next video might keep you from making the same mistake almost every rider on two wheels has already made once.